Blacklash is a term often used to describe a negative or adverse reaction that follows a significant social or political change or movement. It typically manifests as a backlash against progress, reforms, or advancements made by marginalized or disadvantaged groups, particularly in the context of civil rights, gender equality, and other social justice issues. The concept of blacklash is closely tied to the idea that when marginalized groups seek equal rights, recognition, or justice, there can be resistance or opposition from individuals, institutions, or societal norms that have historically maintained the status quo of privilege and inequality. This resistance can take various forms, including discriminatory practices, hostile rhetoric, and attempts to roll back the gains achieved by marginalized communities. Blacklash often occurs when there is a perceived threat to the existing power structures, social hierarchies, or dominant cultural norms. For example, during the civil rights movement in the United States in the 1950s and 1960s, the push for desegregation and equal rights for Black Americans led to a significant backlash from some white Americans who opposed these changes. This backlash included acts of violence, resistance to integration, and efforts to maintain racial segregation. Similarly, the women's rights movement and the push for gender equality have faced backlash in various forms. As women have sought greater participation in the workforce, political leadership, and decision-making roles, there have been instances of backlash, including discrimination, stereotypes, and resistance to policies promoting gender equality. The LGBTQ+ rights movement has also experienced backlash, especially in the form of efforts to roll back marriage equality, transgender rights, and anti-discrimination protections. These actions often stem from conservative or traditionalist viewpoints that resist changes in societal norms and values. It's important to note that backlash is not a uniform or monolithic phenomenon. It can manifest differently depending on the specific issue, region, and context. It may involve legal challenges, political opposition, media campaigns, or even acts of violence and discrimination. Efforts to counter backlash typically involve continued advocacy, education, and coalition building within marginalized communities and their allies. It's crucial for social justice movements to anticipate and address potential backlash and to strategize ways to minimize its impact. Furthermore, it is essential to recognize that backlash does not represent the views of the entire population. Many individuals and groups actively support social justice causes and work to counter backlash by promoting inclusivity, diversity, and equality. In conclusion, backlash refers to the negative and reactionary response that can follow significant social or political changes aimed at achieving justice, equality, and the rights of marginalized groups. It is a complex and often divisive phenomenon that reflects resistance to change and the preservation of existing power structures. Addressing backlash requires ongoing advocacy, education, and solidarity within social justice movements and society at large.